Hello and welcome to our transfer show where myself and Gonzo are here to talk about all of West Ham United's latest news and gossip surrounding the last 5 days of the transfer window. Now, it's been a busy day at West Ham today as it looks like Zaha is imminent. Gonzo, what's your thoughts on us signing the Italian striker? We've been linked with him, but it seems like 2 years now almost.
Yeah, we have been linked with him. I'm a bit worried about the fee, to be perfectly honest with you. It's as rumoured, it's going to be 27 million. Is that right? Does that sound about right to you?
I think it's 24 million after a year's loan, I think.
It's a lot of money to pay when there's somebody said on the forum there's not an awful lot of competition for the player. So it's not like there's been a bidding war for him. It's easy to dig him out over the penalty miss at the Euros, which was a shocker. But his record's not good. And just as you were doing your opening spiel there, I knew it wasn't good. And I started to pull it up. And I'm looking at it at the moment. And you would expect somebody for that money to have been prolific at some point during his career. And I'm reading it now. He started his career at Atalanta, Sampdoria. Then he went out on loan to a couple of lower league teams. The best he's ever done is scored 11 in 18, but that was with a lower division team. He was on Ascoli on loan, 18 and 35. Then I'm not even going to try and pronounce that club. Actually, I will. Sassuolo, perhaps that's what it says. 20 goals in 64 appearances. And, of course, 5 in 19 for Juventus last season. Now, a lot of people will say, well, that's not reflective. He didn't get much of a chance because Juventus have got some good players there. But this is not a 20-goal a season, man, surely. And with that in mind, I think we're probably paying a lot of money.
But why can't he be? I mean, the club obviously see potential. I mean, I just think we have to remember our centre-back. I think we have to remember Ogbonna in this situation.
Yeah, but let's be perfectly honest with you. Sticking the ball in the back of the net is the hardest thing to do in football. That's the commodity. That's why you pay more for strikers than you do for defenders. It's easier to destroy than it is to create. Not knocking on Bonner. You know I love the fella. He's a great player. And I think perhaps sometimes we look at that because he wasn't first choice, of course, at Juventus, Ogbonna, even though he did play. But I think because we've had somebody and had a bit of luck purchasing somebody who played intermittently for Juventus once, perhaps we've gone back in there again. I think it's a little bit desperation, actually. I think we didn't get Batshuayi, we didn't get Lacazette, we didn't get any number of the players we originally went for. I just don't think this is a 20 goals a season striker. I'll listen, happy to be proven wrong. I'll eat me hat if he does score 20 goals. But in fact, you tell us, like, the one game I haven't been to this season was Juventus. You've seen him in the flesh.
Well, he didn't really play that long. I mean, his finish was lovely. His finish was one of the highlights of the game, actually. And it's quite funny. I've seen on social media earlier people saying Zaha scored more goals at the Olympic Stadium than Enner Valencia, and Zaha's not even a West Ham player yet. But his finish was lovely. But I get what you're saying about the 20-goal season striker, but he's still quite young. And I think we just have to trust Tony Henry on this one a little bit. But unlike our other signing, which we'll talk about in a minute, 24 million that's not a punt, is it? You know, 5 million on a midfielder, you can get away with that these days as a punt. 24 million, that's our record signing. That's now our record signing. And to play my own devil's advocate, I'm not sure what justifies him being our new record signing.
Well, as I've just read out his record, I don't claim to have an encyclopedic knowledge of him. Unfortunately, I do have an encyclopedia on my laptop, which we're broadcasting on now. And there's nothing prolific in his career that suggests, just looking down the list there, that suggests he's going to be prolific. Now, unless something is going to drastically change, I think it's a strange one. You know what? They've got money because through the sale of Pogba. Obviously, they then spent it on Higuain. I just don't think we needed to spend the 20. I reckon, with no other competition, if he was any good, I'm not saying he's rubbish, but I'm not saying he won't come over and score some goals, but he might have scored 10 goals a season or something like that. But if he was your 20-goal a season striker, we would have had competition for his signature. We've had a free run, and if you look at Batshuayi, Palace were in for him, Chelsea eventually got him, we were in for him, Marseille wanted to keep him. This is an open playing field, you know.
It's a strange one anyway, but are you disappointed that we didn't just pay a few extra million and go for Benteke? Considering when Benteke was going to Palace, it was quite clear, or so we thought, we had no money, so we kind of had to just accept it. But then turns out there is scope to get a 24 million striker all of a sudden.
Well, you know this because I've said it on the forum all the time. I always said there was extra money there because the sums suggested that would be the case. The Premier League deal is huge, and it always looks. There was all this talk about us having spent 45 million. Well, we hadn't. We'd spent 20 odd million on IU, clawed 10 back from Tompkins, of course. We bought the left back, and I think we spent 4 or 5 million on a loan fee for Torre, but we certainly hadn't spent the money that was quoted. So that money clearly was in the bank, and I was very disappointed because he would have made a difference. He would have suited the way that we played. Yeah, I think it's a big loss. Now Palace are talking about signing 2 or 3 more players, Pardew today, and they're gonna supply him unless Zaha goes to Tottenham, as the rumour has been today, of course. But yeah, I wanted Benteke. That was my guy. But you could still get a prolific striker. You could have got Jermaine Defoe for 5 million, and he would have popped in as many goals as he, if he'd stayed on the pitch all the time, he would have got you 20 goals.
Do you think maybe they're just trying to get a different type of striker in at West Ham and Zaha? We've always got the big man, Carroll. Do you think they're just trying to get Bilic so he's got options?
No, I just think it's become desperate, in all honesty. The stadium needed a marquee signing, okay? And as it's turned out, the stadium in itself, and I was there last night, the stadium's crying out for the team. The fans are trying their hardest. They really are. They're fantastic. When that stadium, the noise level is up, it's really going. But the fans need something from the team. And I think we were just desperate to get somebody in, and it just needed a marquee signing. I'm not sure. It was him in many respects. We spent 20 million on IU, and then we go and spend 20 million on Zaza. Oh, I just wish we'd have gone and spent the 40 million on somebody and got one of the top targets, because if that was the case, and when Leon said Lacazette will cost 42, I'd never seen Lacazette play. But if that's the one we really wanted, we should have gone for him. This guy just feels like 3rd, 4th, 5th choice,
I'm not convinced that I think the way they've structured this deal, but we're getting him on loan for a year, and then there's an obligation to buy it at the end of the season. Now, there's certain things we have to do, but according to David Gold, we're going to do that. So we're going to have to buy him for 24 million. I just think come next summer, we're going to say we've already spent our money. We just bought Zaha for 24 million. Does this worry you? Because it worries me a great deal, Gonzo, that next summer we're going to have the same excuses coming out of the club about lack of funds. Because we had it this summer with Lanzini. Now, I know it's come out of the budget. You know it has. And I know you don't count it in the summer budget because he's signed his deal in April or whatever. But the board consider Lanzini to have come out this summer budget this summer. So do you worry? I certainly do, that in 12 months' time, when we say how much money we've got, they go, well, we've signed Zaza for 24 million.
No, because I think there'll still be money there. It's not the money that bothers me, okay? I'll tell you what does bother me about these. I don't mind a little loan signing here or there. If it's a hole, you get injuries, you get a loan signing. It's when that loan signing becomes your next big transfer of the next season. And it's not because of money. It's because the lift a squad gets from that big player coming in, okay? So, for instance, when Payet came in last season, he'd never been around. There was instantly a buzz around. Oh, who's this? We've spent all this money. Who's this new guy coming? It gives the squad a lift. It gives the fans a lift. So we get to next season, and we say, oh, so who's our record signing? Oh, it's Zaza. Well, actually, we know Zaza. He's there anyway. It doesn't give you that sort of fresh lift and that fresh impetus to the squad. I find that more troubling from the money. What I would say about the money is it's a long way from the Allardyce days when he was buying Diarra and Maiga, people who would depreciate in value. All our players now, with the exception of maybe one or two like Valencia, are probably worth more than we bought them for. So I'm pretty sure there will always be players, there will always be teams coming in for the players that might not be in our first team, but in our periphery. So it's like Obiang. I mean, you go on to him in a second. He's not a depreciating asset. We bought him for 5 mil. We'll probably sell him for 5 mil. Some will increase in value. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone on the periphery of things were to get sold or whatever. Reece Burke comes through or Oxford comes through. We sell a centre-back for good money or defender for good money. So I think the transfer pot will be there, but it just doesn't. I'm just not a big fan of making big permanent signings on loan. If you get a look at them, fine. But if you've got to sign them anyway, if it's structured, actually, loans are great. If you get yes or no, okay, he's brilliant. Great, we'll take him. If he's crap, sorry, you can have him back. Well, hold on. If he's crap, we still got to take him anyway. I don't see the point in having the loan.
It's a bit strange. That's why I don't get this loan thing. I mean, for me, it's clearly a delay in paying Juventus 24 million. They're going to have to pay it anyway. So why are they waiting a year? What's the problem with paying the money now? Why is there no money? I know you keep saying there's money, and if there is, why are they not paying it this summer so we can just start fresh and go again for next summer? For some reason we're delaying paying Juventus by a year essentially, because like you said, what happens if he's crap? Come May, we're still going to have to cough up 24 million. We know where we're getting someone who doesn't fit in at West Ham. We're going to have to accept the fact that we're going to be splashing out at the very least half our transfer kitty on this striker who's just been useless for the season. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be useless. I hope he's good. He could be good. I think he's got the potential to be really good at West Ham as well, and I'm quite excited to see him actually. But there's every chance he's going to be rubbish. In the company, everyone's going to be moaning, "Oh, where we spend 24 million on this guy? Look at him."
Yeah, but what we got out there at the moment is rubbish. I mean, we missed Sakho, Carroll's injured, and what we saw last night was a load of rubbish. So I can understand the board's desperation. Don't get me wrong, but you never buy him from a position of strength when you're desperate, and we're desperate.
Well, it smacks of desperation a little bit anyway. But the last thing I want to ask about Zaza before we move on is, why has it taken until now for us to sign a striker? Why didn't we sign Zaza or Boni or Remy a week ago so Bilic actually had a first-choice striker last night? Bilic's choices last night were Valencia, who's rubbish, Fletcher, who's a youth player who bumped off Man U, and the unproven American Caleri. That was Bilic's striker options, okay? Enner Valencia started against Bournemouth. Last season, Valencia was the fourth choice striker. There was Emenike, there was Sakho, Carroll ahead of him. On Sunday, we had to start last season's fourth choice striker. How can our manager possibly succeed if these are his striking options for the first 2 weeks of the season? Why is it taking until 5 days before the transfer window shuts?
I don't know. I mean, creative. I don't think we were particularly creative last night. And when I say last night, you might be watching this in a couple of days' time. I'm talking about the exit to Astra. Whilst I think we were creative, we did create chances largely through effort and whatnot. The delay in getting the striker has cost us in Europe. So why? I don't know. Maybe they had other targets first. I'd imagine they did. As I say, if you concede that he's fifth choice, let's say, in our list of targets, then I can only assume that we were trying to get numbers 3 and 4 before that. It didn't quite happen. Maybe you don't know. You don't know what goes on behind the scenes. Maybe we actually wanted Boni, and in the end, Boni turned around and said, "No, I'm not coming from that. I'm off to China in January." So actually, it went down to Zaza. Maybe if Boni had agreed, we might have got him, and he might have played against Astra, and the rest would have been history, as they say. So there could be any number of mitigating factors why Zaza wasn't brought in on time or wasn't brought in before. But what is probably undeniable is that lack of striking quality and perhaps a bit of midfield trickery, or someone being able to spot a pass cost us, and for that reason we are not in Europe.
Right, well, let's move on to the player that signed yesterday. Was presented to the crowd on Thursday night, and again before the Astra game. Edimilson Fernandes. Have you ever heard of him?
Never heard of him.
This is going to be fun. I've never heard of him either. 5.5 million. He's 20 years old. He's quite sought after, though. Do you think this is another Terry Wesley, Tony Henry hopeful bit of magic in the transfer market?
Yeah, Charlie was sat in your seat last night in the stadium, and he asked me, he said, "Do you think Terry Wesley gets a budget for youth players?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm sure he does. I mean, I wouldn't, because we've seen that before. We know full well that the owners didn't know that Samuelsen was coming in initially. The owners pitched up at a friendly at Peterborough start of last season. Said, 'Who's this kid?' Terry Wesley. Said, 'Oh, we nicked him off Man City.' Martinez cost 2.4 million, I think, from Valencia. So clearly there's a budget there set to identify young players, and good on him. Listen, I can't make any comment on him whatsoever. What I would say is a couple of people were wondering and were asking, do we really need another attacking midfielder? Well, I'll tell you something. As I say, the only game I've missed in this country is the Juventus game. So I went to Domzale, went to Chelsea away, went to Bournemouth, went last night. Each and every game, we were totally devoid of any creativity in midfield. So it's all very well saying, well, you know what, we've got Payet and there's a song about that, and we've got Lanzini and we've got these players. But you know what? It's 4 games in as far as I'm concerned. I've not seen any of them. So if what we're having to do is bring in another central midfielder, then that's what we got to do, because that's clearly where the team is lacking, as well as at striker.
Well, if you at home know who Edimilson Fernandes is, do let us know on our forum over at hammerschat.com, or you can comment below in the YouTube videos, because we've never heard of him. We're just being honest. Not a Scooby who he is, but fingers crossed he turns out to be an absolute gem. Gonzo, just a quick answer. Do you expect any more ins at West Ham United after Zaha before the window shuts?
Yeah, I do. I expect a right back.
Even though we've gone out of Europa League, you still think we're going to sign at least a player?
Oh, I don't know. It's a good point. Maybe not. I just thought end of last season we needed a right back and a top with our striker, and I still think we do. So I don't think anything's changed. I don't think, and people will argue, and that's great. That's what it's all about. So if people are leaving their comments and arguing, fine. We've not seen Ayew yet, so I can't make a judgment. I saw him at Swansea. That's fine. I don't think we've signed a single player who was better than our best starting 11 last season. Okay? I don't think we have a better... The new guys looks good at left back. Well, he's better than Cresswell. Now, centre-back stay the same. Byram's playing right back now. He was at our club last season. Kiate Noble in the middle, right, would be our 2 choice for most people. They were here last season. And then, I mean, what do you want up front? Antonio, Lanzini, Payet, and then one of the strikers. Listen, if Zaza is for all his faults, if Zaza is a better striker than Sakho, then he's a very good finisher indeed. If he does better than Andy Carroll, and Andy Carroll's fit and firing, then he'll be doing well. But you might argue that perhaps Feghouli might get in one of those 3, maybe with Antonio, but I doubt it. Antonio scored 9 goals last season. Feghouli scores 9 goals. Blimey, we've had a good result there on a free transfer. All I'm saying is that we've brought in a single player who has improved our starting 11, but we've expanded on squad depth. And I do, by the way, think Feghouli is good. I do think Ayew will be good, but we're not going to see Ayew until February, so you might as well just leave him out of the conversation.
It's a very good point, and I quite agree with you as well. I think we should have gone after 2 quality players instead of trying to get 7 and getting quantity in. It's all very good bulking out squad depth, but you're going to bail out Europe in the playoff round. Squad depth is kind of not very necessary all of a sudden. We're struggling to give our players a game, but you can let us know at home if you disagree with that. The transfer window shuts on Wednesday, the 31st of August. We will be back with a live show for hours, alternative Sky Sports. We'll be covering all the Premier League, so make sure you don't miss it. So make sure you subscribe to our channel while you're here. We're ready to move on now to potential outs at West Ham United before the window shuts. Let's talk about the man who started against Astra, the guy that I picked out for criticism because I don't believe his heart's in this club anymore, Pedro Obiang. Gonzo, do you expect him gone?
Well, listen, some people might not have seen your review last night, people that went to the game, so why don't you say what you said last night?
Well, I just think if he's leaving the club, which I expect he is, if he's leaving the club, I do not believe, no matter who, David Sullivan and David Gill can come and stand in front of me and tell me it's wrong. If he leaves between now and the window, I don't believe he didn't start that game not knowing he was leaving. Okay, I will not believe it. No matter who tells me, I will not believe it. So if he started last night and if he leaves before the window shuts and he started last night, that's my concern. I've got a massive worry that we'd be playing someone who's leaving our club. His heart's not going to be in it. He's not going to be going in for 50-50 tackles. Why would he? All he has to do is look at his teammate, Sakho, who's failing medicals for whatever reasons. But the last thing you want to do as a player is say to your club, right, I'm off, see you later. Go to another club, fail a medical, and have to go back with the tail between your legs and join in the training session with your teammates you've just said cheerio to. But could that be any more embarrassing to a player? You know, could it be any more embarrassing to a man when you say, see ya, I'm off, and then you have to go back and almost beg for forgiveness a little bit? So if he goes before the transfer window shuts, I'm very, very disappointed he started against Astra. And I expect him to go. Gonzo, are you expecting Pedro to be off ski?
Yeah, I do, and I totally understand what you're saying there. What you're saying that the wheels in motion for his transfer away from West Ham were put into effect before the starting whistle went for the Astra game. So he went into that game knowing he was going to be leaving the club. So how could he possibly be as committed as he should have been? Listen, I totally understand what you're saying. I don't know if that's the truth. I totally understand where you're coming from, and I wouldn't argue either way. What I will do is talk about him as his ability. Now, we signed him, I think we signed him from Sampdoria for 5 million. And it looks like we're going to sell him on for about 5 million. And that's about right. I don't see any shocker. We're not losing Lanzini here. You know, Lanzini was bought for 8 million, and I think probably Lanzini's probably worth 20, 25. You know, we bought a 5 million player. He serves as a good squad buffer, and he's going to leave for 5 million. And listen, I'm not overly disappointed. I don't dislike the guy, but as I said to you on numerous occasions, he's a 6 out of 10 player.
I to and fro with this guy. Sometimes I think he's very undervalued by people like yourself. I think sometimes he does better than people think. But then I watch him against Arsenal and I just think, have you ever had a good game, mate? You've never had a poor game at West Ham. You've never had a poor game. But you ever actually been one of the better players on the pitch? You ever come off the pitch and everyone's going, you know what, I think Obiang was man of the match. I can't remember at any point doing it. We've done a review for every single game last season. We did a review. And I can't once remember thinking, I might give it to Obiang today. Not once do I remember doing that. And whenever he plays, we always seem to have a midfield three, right? I don't think I've ever seen him play alongside only Noble or Kouyaté. There's probably a few games I'm missing. Usually there's three. For some reason, when he starts, Bilic feels a need to play three in there. And for a defensive midfielder, I do think of goals like the ones we conceded against Leicester, where he had the opportunity to bring his man down on the halfway line. He would get a booking for it, but he stops the counter-attack. That's what defensive midfielders do. He just let the play go past him. He wasn't going to get the ball. He knew it, so he just let it. And I thought, take the yellow card, bring the boy down and stop the attack. But it's a shame because I think he's up against two of our players who's very, very hard to dislodge. Would you agree with that? He was up against a really hard task in the first place.
He was, but he served his purpose. I'm not disappointed. I'm not elated. I mean, I have a sort of almost a Magnolia opinion of the whole thing. It's not black and white. It's all very beige to me. You know, I don't care. You know what he was? He was better than Gary O'Neill and he was better than Matty Taylor. And that's what he was supposed to be for 5 million. And that's absolutely fine. What was Gary O'Neill? Was it 2.6 million? I was like, he's better than Gary O'Neill. Fantastic. But that was it. He's done his job. Now he's off ski. As I said to somebody on the forum the other day, if we don't have a comparable player coming through in the academy to Pedro Obiang, or one of these ones that Wesley or Henry are bringing in, I'll be very, very disappointed. I'll be very disappointed we spent 5 million on this fella who we don't know about from old Fernandes. I'm prompting you.
Yeah. Right, let's move on and talk about our youngsters, right? We're out of Europe now. There's now a big question mark dangling over the head of a few of our youngster players. They didn't really get a go in the Europa League. Oxford played a couple, looked good, centre back. Burke played a couple left back, looked quite good. Bilic just said one of them's going out on loan. Who would you loan out, Gonzo, and why?
I would loan out Oxford because he needs to go out on loan. Burke went out on loan last year, and I think it's really benefited him. And he won every award at Bradford, did he not? Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year, Golden Boot. No, not Golden Boot, but, you know, he won every award there. He's come back a man. And he looks... I like him. I felt sorry for him stuck at left back. Goodness sake, honestly. But I think he looks really, really good. And I think Oxford needs to come back a man as well. And I think it'll do him the world of good actually playing again in the rough and tumble of a lower division, which is... And there's some good standard down there as well. It's not all rough and tumble. You know, you're seeing players exchanging hands for 10, 12, 14 million in the Championship, for instance. So it'd be quite good, to be honest with you. I'd let him go. But I think we need to tie him down to the contract. We need to convince him his future lies at West Ham. But how do you do that with the club? It's not in turmoil. The club's not in turmoil, but I don't think Bilic knows his best 11. So if the manager doesn't know his best 11, how's he meant to convince youngsters that he's going to know his best 11 in a couple of years and Oxford's going to be part of it?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Burke looks ready. I know you said you're disappointed for him to be left back. It really doesn't bother me because to me that's almost like saying to Burke, you serve your apprenticeship, right? Our centre backs are fit, they're starting. There's a gap at left back. You can go there and earn. That's your apprenticeship tonight. You go out there, you put in a shift, you show me you can do it. You can show me that you'll get your head down, you'll play left back for a game. Don't impress too much, and you might get stuck there. And he's done that. He said to Bilic over the last two legs, he said to Bilic, look, I'm good enough to play left back. I'm good enough to play out position for you. And he's probably given Bilic a lot of food for thought, actually, because against the game at Astra, he's probably the only one that came out with a positive mark. If you were to rate him all out of 10, he's probably our West Ham man in the match, if you like. And he was the same in the first leg. I thought he played really, really well, but he just looks ready. And, when John Stones is 50 million, I'd really like to know how much this guy's worth if you were to actually sell him, considering he's younger than John. I'm not saying he's as good as John Stones, but he's got a couple of years on John Stones. And was John Stones as good as Reece Burke at 19?
John Stones is a really good young, very, very good young player. Funnily enough, our own Tony Henry bought John Stones from Barnsley for Everton. Yeah, I mean, I remember reading the articles at the time. He was the standout young defender around. So yeah. To be fair, listen, 50 million's overinflated, but to be fair to John Stones, yeah, he had a better reputation than Reece Burke has now. But the thing is, Reece Burke, he signed a 4-year contract, which is great.
Well, I hope we see him in the first team, and I hope he gets a lot of minutes. Where he's going to get the minutes, that's my worry. Now we're out of Europe, it's going to be tough for him to put him in. You can't throw him in. Would Reed or even James Collins accept being on the bench while Reece Burke starts? Probably not. Should they complain? Probably not, but they probably will. Last player we're going to talk about, it looks like we're stuck with him. Diafra Sakho. He's not fit. He's injured. What do we do with him? Are West Ham fans just going to have to grin and bear it, accept him, and hope he gets fit by September, October time, or whatever, and just hope that when he comes back, he can actually contribute to the team and we move him on in January? What's your stance on Sakho?
I don't think he failed the medical because he was unfit. I don't think you're going to get him playing matches and then he'll sign for somebody else in January and pass a medical. I don't think he will pass a medical. I think he's got quite a dodgy back problem. Backs are funny things, You get a back problem, you probably all know somebody has had a back problem at some time in their life. That is not. It's not like an ankle or even a knee is a complicated procedure. But they do a little keyhole now. Back is. I don't think they understand it properly. Problems in and around your spine. I mean, you're talking big specialists here. As I say, I don't think he failed it on sort of fitness and cardio fitness and muscular fitness. I think there's a bigger problem there. No, I think we've got to suck it up and we've got to hope for the best from him and just appreciate that we do have an exciting player when he's at his best, a natural finisher. Somebody that's very good, but on the flip side, he clearly has some physical issues, and dare I say, he goes a bit doolally sometimes. He's got some mental issues as well. I don't mean that in a nasty sense, but he's gonna have a tantrum 2 or 3 times a year.
Attitude issues, not mental issues. Attitude.
Attitude. Yeah. We're not the BBC. We don't have to do a disclaimer. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
There's something not right.
What about Enner Valencia? Are you praying someone gets him? Partly Villa were after him, and then the chairman Villa's new chairman put out a tweet about it, and a Villa fan said, "Does this mean we're not signing him now?" The Villa chairman liked it. The Villa chairman's almost publicly said, "Yeah, we had a look at him. He's not good enough." But now Norwich are in for him. Does this sum it up, the fact that only Championship clubs want Enner Valencia?
Listen, this going to sound a right depressing show, by the way. We have got some good players. It's before we talk about Valencia. Listen, the big thing about this season is keeping Payet. Okay, we keep Payet. It lifts the crowd. We score goals. We create goals. He'll get plenty of assists. The team instantly lifts. You get Lanzini in, everything's good, and even people like Antonio start to come into the game more. So there's good things. But back on Valencia, I've never ever seen anybody run past a football before when they when they meant to collect the ball or control. I've never seen him. He ran straight past the ball. He tried to get it. He saw he scoot his foot, but he completely missed it. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. I don't know. As I said last night, oh, look, he's got a free kick here. He's all right because the ball's not moving. When he's got to hit a stationary ball, he can strike it quite cleanly. He's not up to it. He is just not up to Premier League football. He wasn't up to it when he was putting the effort in, which he does work hard, and when his head wasn't dipped. He's now very downbeat, unfortunately, Valencia. So now you've got a problem with that he lacks ability, and now he probably lacks a bit of application and belief. So it's one thing having no ability. It's another thing having no ability but thinking you're really good. Now he's just got no ability, and I think he himself thinks he's crap. So I think we've got, I don't know. Yeah, he needs to go. But then, you had Caleri last night who didn't do himself any favours either. It looks like he might have some quality in there, but perhaps not quite dynamic enough for the Premier League. He lacks a bit of pace. But I don't know. We need listen. Zaza better come in and start scoring goals. That's all I can say. But Fletcher looked good. I didn't do the review last night, so maybe we don't blow out Fletcher. Fletcher was meant to be going to Leeds. I'd keep him around. I'd like to see him start against Man City, actually.
Well, I think we all are. Now, we've got something different to finish this show with. We've got a couple of special little things going on. But that was it for our transfer part. So the big question is, are we going to be laughing ha-ha at Zaza, or we've got a bit of a gem on our hands here? Do you know Fernandes, and what would you do with our youngsters? Would you loan out Burke or Oxford? Let us know on our forum at hammerschat.com or in the comments below. Now, moving on to something a little bit different. Well, first of all, we're going to have 2 giveaways coming up soon. We've got one coming out next week, Gonzo, if I'm right. We should have one coming out next week. Both are West Ham related. One of them is a fantastic book. It's a photo book.
That's good.
It's absolutely fantastic. So we've got a video coming out to show you a little bit about it, and we're giving away a couple of copies on our YouTube channel. We've also got something else coming out, which you'll soon find out. But to make sure you enter, do subscribe to our channel here. If you're watching this embedded on our site, just go to youtube.com/hammerschat and make sure you subscribe and keep your eyes out, because you don't want to miss them, and we'll be giving them away as always. Gonzo, you got a little present today, didn't you, from a forum member?
I did. Can you say sorry? Sorry. I just saw myself. Then that probably looks a bit rude. Ozion sent us these. They're microphone things. So I just wanted to say I got them through the post. So thanks, mate. Ozion, someone off our forum, he sent those so we can pop it on top of the microphone. So when Geo's asking everybody questions and I'm giving terrible answers, everyone knows Hammer's Chat and not somebody else. So thanks for that, mate. Brilliant. Much appreciated.
And you want to say a special thank you to a couple of people over on our forum?
Yeah, I do, because when I was walking to the stadium yesterday, a couple of people stopped me and they were saying really nice things about the forum and nice things about the videos as well. And people might not be aware of it. We got a guy on the forum called Cockney Hammer. And last week, I think it was last week, James Corden did a podcast with Knees Up Mother Brown. Is that right?
Yeah.
And in it, he said, somebody asked him in the podcast, how do you manage to keep up with the West Ham news, bearing in mind you're living in the States? And he said, I like to go and log into Cockney Hammer's news and gossip roundup each day. And for those of you who don't know, this guy gets up at, he's mental, to be honest with you, but he gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Attitude, not mental.
Sorry, I'm going to have, our next charity fundraiser will be, didn't you? He's got attitude. He's got fantastic attitude. He gets up at 5, 6 in the morning. Every single piece of West Ham news, be it every newspaper is in there, all the websites. He basically gathers it all together. It's not a sort of all-day breaking news like you'll get with Claret and Hugh. It's just the news overnight. Every West Ham story is condensed from the day. So you haven't got to do anything. I've not bought a newspaper since he started doing it, to be honest with you. And I just want to say a big thank you to him. And for those of you who don't know, if you log on to hammerschat.com, hammerschat.com, wherever, I can't even find it, somewhere behind me. It's hammerschat.com. If you log on to hammerschat.com every morning, you can read all the West Ham news on there. It's condensed. He does it for you guys, and he's well, top bloke.
He really is a fantastic guy. It's the same guy from Knees Up Mother Brown, for those of you a little confused. He was on Knees Up Mother Brown. He's now in Hammers Chat, like Gonzo said. It's just unreal. Every morning on my way to work, I just go on the forum myself on my phone, and every newspaper article's there from the official site, from all the West Ham sites there is. He's done it all. He does it all for you. Absolutely superb. But make sure you come on to our forum as well and just join in the banter. Come have a chat with us. Let us know your thoughts on everything West Ham. Like we said, we'll be back on Wednesday with our live transfer show. We'll be back on Sunday after the Man City game with a live review, hopefully celebrating a win.
Sorry,
lots of stuff coming out. Yes, Gonzo.
Just on the transfer show, just to let you know, it's going to be a slightly different format. So you are going to have to dip in and out. We will be going. We could be going for about 5 hours. Transfer deadline day won't just be the West Ham. We'll be dealing with everything. So if you want to mute Jim White or whatever and just have to scroll, we'll be talking of things amongst ourselves, but also we'll be reading from. We'll have a big thread on the forum. We'll be reading from that, reading from Twitter, reading the comments here. So we get people joining. It won't just be us two. I mean, we'll need to have a wee and a cup of tea at some point, won't we? So everyone will be dipping in and out. We'll have a lot of our regulars. We'll have some guests, people coming on, joining us. It's going to be, I probably won't be sat in front of a flaming board. Everyone will be a bit more relaxed. Be sat, oh my goodness, an avalanche. Everybody be sat on our sofas, be relaxed. So come and join us for that one and dip in and out as you please.
Yeah, but just make sure you subscribe to our channel. Anyway, that's been Gonzo, I've been Geo. Believe it or not, we're actually quite happy with the transfer window generally, with the signings, despite this negativity. But we'll also do a show in the international break where I will be asking Gonzo to rate all the transfers and whether they're going to be a hit or a miss at West Ham. And we'll be wanting you lot to join in and give us your thoughts. Catch us later.